So the written word, it's changing, right? Everything's online. It's fast when we have letters journals, which publish things even more rapidly than full article journals. It's even more rapid with journals that publish what we call just accepted, where an accepted manuscript can be up on the web within an hour or two of accepted as an unedited PDF that the author has submitted. It's linked, and here I show that on every single, or in ACS articles, we can link through to SciFinder so that you can get details about the reactions, the substances, the citations. Its publications are also newsworthy. So this is, ACS every week sends out a press pack of interesting articles, and many of our journals are often featured in there. It's collaborative with Chemical and Engineering News, and this is the environmental scene. It's a collection of ACS articles from journals like Environmental Science and Technology, as well as others. It's newsworthy in the popular press. This is a Jax article that was featured in the New York Times. Everyone loves to see their name in headlights. It's relevant to your daily life, looking at how science affects your health. It's social. This is a screenshot from our Jax Beta website, which is a collaborative sandbox, and where we learn from our users what they want. It's short. How short can you make your article? Can we get a message across in 140 characters? It's not just written. It could also be video. So this is from Jax Beta as well. This is Chad Merkin talking about research that he published in Jax. And it's mobile. We can take our research everywhere, right? I don't go anywhere without my iPad, my iPhone, my BlackBerry, my laptop. It's kind of sad. We do, as noted, have an ACS mobile application, which right now is available for iPhone and iPad and coming soon to your Droid device. So the written word, it's changing. As I mentioned, it's mobile, it's social, it's fast. But what stays the same? The written word is really a foundation for what we do. Knowledge has to be constantly renewed. And the written word communicates the novelty of something. It sets precedent. The written word is achieved by peer review. So, we submit articles to journals. They go to the editor-in-chief and his or her office, where they're looked at for format, as Jim mentioned. They might be sent to an associate editor whose expertise is appropriate for the content of the paper. That associate editor may choose to send it to a number of different reviewers who take a look at the paper and say, is this correct? Do the data support the conclusions? And they're really playing a sort of an investigative role, I guess. And it's a back and forth between the associate editor, the reviewers, and the authors. So you receive feedback, you revise accordingly, nicely. And it's a cycle, and really publishing is a team effort to help build on the foundation of the written word. And everyone involved in this process has responsibilities: the author, the editor, and the reviewer. So you as scientists really need to understand what parts you're responsible for. So within research, you have to know what the expectations of your scientific field are, maybe the scientific society that you're involved in, ACS or otherwise. What are the requirements that your funding agency puts about the responsible conduct of research? Does your institution have any requirements, something like an institutional review board if you're working on experiments with humans or animals? What does your department say? What does your advisor say? How about us as the publisher? And what does your audience say about what you need to do? So it's knowing from the top to the bottom, and inside and outside, what everyone would like to see in your research. So ACS publications have expectations of you as authors. We provide a set of ethical guidelines, and as was mentioned earlier, the editors-in-chief of our journals get together once a year and more frequently over phone calls and webinars And one of the things that they put a lot of stock in is the ethical guidelines to our journals. The ethical guidelines are almost always a topic of conversation when they get together. And this is a set of principles that they, in total, have agreed upon unanimously. We recognize that high ethical standards is vital to the scientific enterprise, and that we really need to define those standards and publicize those standards. So our ethical guidelines spell out norms for everyone involved. It spells out norms for our editors, it spells out norms for our reviewers, and it spells out norms for our authors. The ethical guidelines of editors and of reviewers are pretty similar, provide fair, timely, informed, and unbiased reviews and decisions, respect confidentiality, and don't disclose unpublished information. And then also for our editors, one of their roles is to arbitrate the conversation between authors and reviewers. For authors, we expect that you're going to present your research as accurately as it was performed and provide an objective discussion of its significance. To this end, we've released a new journal publishing agreement, sometimes also called a copyright transfer agreement, and I'm very pleased to say that we can do this all online now. There's no need to fax back and forth forms. We have a click-through agreement, which is very exciting. Contained within that journal publishing agreement are a number of different author warranties, and these are all sort of based on our ethical guidelines. You warrant, when you submit a manuscript to an ACS journal, that the research is original, that you haven't included intentionally misleading or inaccurate information. We also you also warrant that all of the authors have been informed of this submission. I think it was mentioned earlier that this isn't always the case. You warrant that this hasn't been previously published or isn't being considered elsewhere, that this is an original, unique submission. The submission can't violate the privacy of others or infringe upon anyone else's intellectual property rights. And that if you have confidential information in there, you've got permission to use it. Also, if you have a conflict of interest, you have to declare that conflict of interest. So in turn for warranting all of the things that I mentioned on the previous slide, we also grant back a number of rights to you. You can reuse your published article as part of your thesis or your dissertation. You can reuse your figures, your tables, your artwork, your illustration, and portions of your text up to about a paragraph in length for other purposes, in teaching or training in presentations, or in other publications that you're an author on. You can post various versions of your article on your website, on your university's website, or things like that. So let me talk to you a little bit about some of the ethical issues that we encounter as publishers. They sort of have two major flavors. They're either due to negligence or to deliberate misinformation. So listed here are some things that you really shouldn't do. And I hope that I'm not giving you brand new information. Don't send the same paper to two journals at the same time. Don't fabricate your results. Don't falsify your results. Don't plagiarize. Make sure that the data that you collect about humans it follows guidelines, and disclose any conflicts of interest that you've got. We find out when you do these things. So don't think that you're going to get one past the editors, the reviewers, the scientific community. In the end, it only damages your reputation. So one of the things that I mentioned before was reuse. So plagiarism is using someone else's words or ideas without proper acknowledgement. Cite broadly. Put things in quotation marks if you're reusing people's other words, and cite that source. And unless the information is really common knowledge, that you could find it in 5 or more different places, include a citation to it. So, can you plagiarize your own words in a word? Yes. Self-plagiarism, noted here, is when you publish the same work or submit the same work in two places. The reason why this is important is a couple-fold. When you sign a journal publishing agreement or a copyright transfer form to a journal, it's usually the journal, the publishing house, that owns the copyright. So by plagiarizing your own words, not only are you doing yourself a disservice, but you may also be infringing the copyright of a publisher. So don't recycle without proper attribution. I'll also point out that you as students, you as faculty members may well be aware of various plagiarism checking software that's out there. Used widely in university campuses is the program called Turnitin. There's a similar program that publishers use called Crosscheck that many more publishers are using, and ACS will be one of those publishers using Crosscheck as well to a way of detecting plagiarism within the published body of scientific literature. So, be honest, be ethical. We find out when people have violated our ethical principles. Clark is laughing here, but like elephants, scientists have long memories, and they have good access to information. It's relatively easy to find out when something has been plagiarized or misrepresented. The scientific community is watching. I think that the arsenic bacteria example is a really good one. The outcry of what the heck was dramatic and swift. And we can use technology to also find out when information has been plagiarized, not just text, but also images. And this link at the bottom here to a Journal of Cell Biology article talks about how in biology, at least the checking of various figures is more and more prevalent. So what happens if you're caught violating our ethical policy? Well, we could withdraw a paper from publication. Depending upon the severity of what's happened, you might be banned from publishing in a journal for a period of time. You may well end up on a journal's watch list where all of the information, all of the papers that you submit to a journal are more carefully scrutinized. You really don't want this. It's something that's pretty easy to avoid. So, thank you. Thank you for being responsible scientists. And I will pass the baton.